Welcome to Catalyst Church. Great to have everybody here with us today. We are in week number 4 of Back to Basics, where we are talking about what are the most basic foundational things here at Catalyst so that you understand what we're about and who we are. And if this is early on and you're just visiting, first time, second time, third time, whatever it might be, you'll figure out very quickly in this sermon series who we are and what we care about. And maybe this is the place for you, or maybe it's not. And if it's not, we'll help you find a place, because I believe that there is a place for everyone, and Catalyst isn't it, but there is a place for everybody. So we're in week number 4. I've heard this story multiple times, and it came back up again this week, and it talks about the top high school basketball recruit. Imagine you're the top high school basketball recruit, whether it was Zion or LeBron or whoever it might be, and you decide, you finally choose your college. And you choose your college because it's got the best coach, maybe in the history of all basketball coaches. This guy's won 10 national titles, and he has more than an 80% winning percentage, and you're thinking, I can go there and I can win a national title. I can get better. I can go to the NBA. I can supply for my family. And you've been working for this all of your life. And you get there and you're so excited. First day of practice comes, you're there and you're in the locker room and you're all suited up. You got your practice gear on and shoes and socks, and you're just like, what's the coach going to say the first time he comes in to get us all ready to go? What's he going to say to fire us up for practice? What's going to be the first drill that we run? And your just mind is spinning. You're just so ready to show who you are and the talents that you have. And the coach comes in, and he comes in and he's like, all right, for us to be the best team that we can be, we've got to go back to the basics. So if you got your shoes and socks on, take them off. And you're looking around like, is he kidding? And as you're looking around, you're realizing only the freshmen have their shoes and socks on. Nobody else has their shoes and socks on. So you unlace them and you take your socks off, and coach says, okay, now we can begin. And he walks you through how to put your socks on. You're 18 years old, 19 years old. Freshman in college, top basketball recruit in the nation, and he teaches you how to put your socks on. He tells you, no, your shoes are laced wrong, lace them this way. And you go ahead and you're thinking, okay, what's going on here? It just doesn't make sense to me. But when John Wooden shows up in the locker room and he tells you that it's the little details that are vital, little things make big things happen, and he's won 10 national titles and won more than 80% of the games that he's ever coached. And he says, if you get a blister, you can't practice well and you can't play well. And we need you on this team. The team can't be its best unless everyone is able to play. Let me say that again. The team can't be its best unless everyone is able to play. And I believe John Wooden took coaching lessons from Jesus. Now, we don't find this in Scripture, but if we watch what Jesus does and how he does it and who he does it with, we see over and over Jesus teaching this lesson that the church is a team sport. The team cannot be its best unless everyone is able to play. He wants to make sure that everyone back then was in the game, and he wants to make sure that everybody today is in the game. So here at Catalyst, our discipleship system, this is how we make disciples. Now, we see in Matthew 4:19, this is how you can tell if you are a disciple. Jesus said, come and follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. So are you following Jesus? Are you being changed by Jesus? Are you on the same mission as Jesus? In Matthew 28, 18 through 20 says, go make disciples of all nations. Now, a more accurate translation of that would be as you go, because you're going to go everywhere. You're going to live life. As you go, make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to obey everything that I have commanded you, and surely I will be with you always to the very end of the age. So the goal is to make disciples. Matthew tells us how we know if we are disciples. So what does that process look like? Well, here at Catalyst, we looked at what Jesus was doing and said, let's try doing those same things. And we've been going through this. Jared was with us a few weeks ago when he talked about sharing. If you want to start being a disciple of Jesus, you need to start sharing things. Sharing your table. Invite people over for dinner. Sharing your lives, the good and the bad. Your vacations, your abilities, whatever it might be, start sharing it with those people who are around you. Because God has put you where He wants you for a reason. He has you in your job and in your family and your community, and He has you on all those places for a reason. And then we talked about last week how to connect. How do I connect with people? I'm not very good at connecting with people. How in the world does that happen? And as we look at this, we looked at Acts chapter 2 last week, and how about you invest in people? Maybe invest financially in people. Maybe you see something and you're like, you know what, I want to pay for you to get that certification. I want to pay for you to take those classes. I want to send you $40 a month while you're in college. That's what Holly's grandmother did for us, and I'm telling you, that was the best $40 ever. Like I said last week, we had 2 salads and we split the appetizer, and that was the best meal we had all month long. But maybe you invest in somebody. Maybe you invest with your talents. Maybe you coach somebody up and say, I see something in you, and I'd love to see more of it. Would you mind if we spent some time together? And then today, share, connect, minister. How do you minister? What is a minister? Is it somebody who, like me, if you went to Bible college, you got 4 years of undergrad, and you go to Bible college, and you take some biblical languages, and you take like 193 church history classes, and you take 3 preaching classes, and a speech class, and then you take math and English, and all this other type of stuff, and then you go off and you go and get your master's, and maybe you get a 2-year degree, or you get the Master's of Divinity, and you get the 3-year degree, and now you have all the tools that you will ever need to do ministry, right? Wrong. Absolutely not. They didn't teach me how to put together a budget, not to put together a budget for a church or for a church building like we have coming up here. And let me just say, the elders met with the project manager last week, and he's really getting some things moving, so there's exciting things coming along with the building. Just a quick update. But he didn't tell me how to manage a project. I never learned how to counsel a single person. Marriage counseling, premarital counseling, hey, I'm going crazy counseling. I didn't have a single one of those classes. Not one of them. But those are the things that you deal with day in and day out. And here's what I understand. I think Jesus understood this, and he led by example, and we see this playing out in the numbers today. I believe that there are full-time paid ministers working other jobs today, sitting out there right now, sitting in those seats. I believe there is at least one of you who is working another job right now that will be in full-time paid ministry, maybe in the next 5 years or so. And the numbers back me up on this. Now let me say, first of all, not everyone is supposed to go into full-time paid ministry. It's not supposed to happen. God has different people in different places because He wants you there. But what I know right now is 60% of the people who go into ministry for their first time over the last decade are over 30 years old. So that tells me they graduated high school and got a job, or it tells me they went to college and got a job and this is their second career. A third of the people who are over 30 years old, a third of them don't get into ministry until they're over 40 years old. So what that tells me is we need to prepare people in the church for ministry. Jesus did it, and we're going to look at that today, and we try to do that here at Catalyst. Like I said, everyone is not supposed to be in full-time paid ministry. Some of you are in full-time ministry, or all of us are in full-time ministry. Some of us get paid for it. All of us are in full-time ministry, cleverly disguised as engineers, salesmen, secretaries, doctors, mechanics, bankers, whatever you are. That is where your full-time ministry is. But some of you, a few of you, will be in full-time paid ministry, I believe, in the next 5 years. And the numbers show that over and over again. So what we try to do here at Catalyst is we try to create a place to play. We try to create places for you to use the gifts and the abilities that God has given you so that you can figure out how to use them in ministry and to continue to get better at them. I mean, think about this. If you were on a team and you practiced 5 days, 6 days, 7 days a week, constantly went to practice, gave 100%, and never played, never got in the game, how long do you stay on that team? Not very long. Because no one likes practice. Everybody likes the game, but nobody likes practice. That's the job. If I'm coaching stuff, I'm making practices harder than the game every single time. Because then we'll win the game. We'll excel at the game. But no one wants to go to practice all the time and never get in the game, except for Christians. We want to show up and never have to do anything. And God's like, I'm trying to prepare you for something. I'm trying to get you ready for this big thing, and you're the key here, and I just need you to get in the game. And we're going to look at what Jesus does here in John chapter 6. Jesus does some things on the surface that are very cool, but he's also doing some things below the surface that we can miss pretty easily that I want to point out today, and we get into this, and there's all bunch of stuff, and I think it's crazy cool, and I'm excited, so stay with me, and let's have some fun here. So John chapter 6, verse 1. So sometime after this, so this just sets us up here and says, okay, sometimes these things happen right on top of each other. But it must have been a little bit of time from what happened at the end of chapter 5. Sometime after this, Jesus crossed over to the far shore of the Sea of Galilee, that is, the Sea of Tiberias. Now, there's something that you should know. On the opposite side of the Sea of Galilee is where the Decapolis is. This is where Rome comes in. Now, the Romans have been killing everybody's grandparents and moms and dads and grandkids and children and everything else. So what the Jewish people have done is they have said, if you say the Decapolis or any of the names of the cities, your tongue is now unclean and you can't go to worship. You can't have your sins forgiven today because you said the name of this town. So all of them understand this when they're like, we're going to the other side. You'll see this in the prodigal son. They went to a land far off. They have their own names for the other side of the Sea of Galilee because they don't want to take them. Well, Jesus crossed over to the far shore with his disciples. He's like, boys, we're going to get into it today. And he takes them over there. The Sea of Galilee, we got to go there when we were in Israel. The Sea of Galilee is, I don't know how big it is. It is a good size sea here, and we were out here on this boat. It was great, good breeze, all of the above. Got to see this from another place here. One of the things I want you to notice here is there are hills and mountains all the way around the Sea of Galilee. And on one of the sides of the Sea of Galilee is the city of Tiberias. Hence, the Sea of Galilee, you might know it as the Sea of Tiberias. So that's why it says it like that. But notice there are hills and mountains all around the Sea of Galilee. There's not like a real flat pace where you're back in your boat and everything's great. Like it's just hilly. Okay? So and he goes on in verse 2 and it says, and a great crowd of people followed him because they saw the signs that he had performed and by healing the sick. Then Jesus went up on the mountainside and sat down with the disciples. The Jewish Passover festival was near. Okay, so here's one of the things that I want us to start doing. When the people wrote Scripture, when the Jewish people, all of the Jewish people wrote Scripture here, and everybody who wrote was Jewish, they thought with an Eastern mindset. When they did this, they wrote Scripture so that we would ask questions about Scripture, so that we could dig a little bit further and get to know it a little bit better. Now, one of the things that we've sort of picked up in our Western mindset is, and I don't think anybody has taught this, but all of us have sort of caught this, is you don't ask questions about Scripture. It's Scripture. It is what it is. These people designed Scripture to have you and me ask questions about it that will reveal another answer, and will reveal another answer, and it just keeps getting better every time we pick up on this. So we have to learn to ask some questions as we go along. One of the things here that is sort of general knowledge for all of them is they went, first of all, Jesus, why are all the people following him? Because he performed by signs by healing the sick. What he was doing is putting God on display in the best way that he could. And the best way that Jesus could is, and you're healed. And you're healed, and you're healed. Okay, that's cool. We can't do, and you're healed. But who did he do this to? The sick, the orphans, the widows, the demon-possessed. We can still today take care of the orphans, the widows, the sick people. We can still put our God on display. So these people had hundreds and hundreds of gods to choose from, and they start following Jesus because there's something that this God is doing that not all the rest of them are. This God is taking care of his people, and all the rest of them, they want to take care of the God. It's working a little backwards here, and they're like, okay, I got to hear more about this from this Jesus. So Jesus goes up on the mountainside and sat down with his disciples. So this is just a common Jewish practice. Like in here, you're all out in the lobby and you're hanging out and you're saying hi to everybody and worship's going on, and we should all be in here worshiping, but we like to hang out in the lobby and not come in until like most of the worship songs are over for some reason, even though they kill it in here, and Evan was like playing drums and leading on some songs, which woo-hoo, go ahead. But you come in here and you're like, okay, communion's up, it's about time for the sermon to start. How did they know that a rabbi was ready to teach? He sat down. And everybody's like, okay, he's ready. And then they would all sit down. And they go on here, and it says, when Jesus looked up and saw a great crowd coming toward him, he said to Philip, where shall we buy bread for these people to eat? Now, Jesus is here, and he's here, and the towns at this time, they're a quarter of a mile from each other. They're not real far from each other, really, but like a big town would have a couple hundred people in it. So there's this whole large crowd coming to them, and Jesus has set this up to give his disciples a place to play. He has set this up to make sure they had the opportunity to learn ministry, to get their hands dirty and do ministry as they were with him. And how do we know this? Because he asked them only to test him, for he already knew in mind what he was going to do. I love that. I love that Jesus is like, watch here. There's a whole, hey Philip, how are we going to feed all these people? I feel like he's setting them up like we're going to test you here and see what you got here. And he's talking to Philip, but it must have been all the disciples were right there, because Philip gives him an answer, and Philip answered, it would take more than a half a year's wages to buy enough of bread for each one to have a bite. Put that in your pocket. For everybody here to have a bite, it would take more than a half a year's wages for us to be able to do this. Because we know that there are a ton of people coming out here, and they're only 200, like they couldn't even buy the bread because the towns didn't have enough for them to buy enough bread. But another one of the disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, how would you like that? Every time you see that in Scripture, you're like, here's Andrew. Oh, it's just Simon's brother, little punk. Like, it's just sort of the side note, right? Like, it's whatever. So it's Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up. Here's a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish. But how far are they going to go with so many? What? What in the world? We got what we know, if you've read this story before, we know we have 5,000 men coming. So we have maybe somewhere between like 10 and 15,000 people with women and kids. And he's like, oh, I got the answer. We have 5 barley loaves and 2 small fish. Won't that feed everybody? Idiot. What are you thinking? What in the world is going on here that Andrew, Peter's little brother, is the one who thinks that he's found the answer? But here's the thing. Scripture here is giving us hints about something to come that we miss so often because we're Western-minded thinkers. So what we think here in our Western mind is 5 small barley loaves for 5, 10, 15,000 people. No. 2 small fish. Can't feed everybody. The math doesn't work, period. We also know, like if you live over there, there are 2 types of fish that you can be found in the Sea of Galilee. One of them, I think we call whiting now. I forget what the original name was. It was like a real ugly named fish, so they started calling it something else. And the small fish that they can go fishing for in there are sardines. 5 barley loaves, 2 small sardines, which who loves those anyways? But anyways, our Western mind looks at this, 5 to 10 to 15,000 people, not a chance. Doesn't add up. What the Eastern mind, what the Jewish mind sees is 5. Oh, that sounds familiar. First 5 books of the Bible, the Torah, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Oh, so maybe he's going to try to teach us something here like the first 5 books do. Oh, and there are 2 fish? There are 5 and 2? Like the 2 tablets, not tables, but tablets that Moses brought down here? So he's going to teach us something? Okay. Oh, and barley. They had 5 barley loaves? I feel like I remember a story of when barley loaves were multiplied by Elisha. Oh, man. Wouldn't that be cool if he taught us something and did a miracle and multiplied these loaves all at the same? So this is what's going through these guys' head at this point that we miss. This is sitting below the surface that we miss over and over again. Because these guys, remember, all of them had memorized the Torah. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. We still don't know how they taught it today. No one can figure out how they taught that, but they had it memorized. So as soon as they say barley loaves, they're like, that's odd. There's not many times I see in Scripture barley loaves, but I see it in 2 Kings chapter 4. They didn't have scriptures back then, but a man came from Baal Shalashala, that's what I'm going with, bringing the man of God 20 loaves of barley bread, baked from the first ripe grain, along with the heads of new grain. And he said, give it to the people to eat, Elisha said. How can I set this before 100 men? His servant asked, knowing that there's not enough bread. But Elisha answered, give it to the people to eat. For this is what the Lord says, they will eat and have some left over. That sounds pretty familiar to me. Then he set it before them, and they ate and had some left over according to the word of the Lord. It's like, oh, so they didn't have enough bread, but they ate and they had some left over. Okay, so let's go back to John. In John chapter 6, starting in verse 10, it says, Jesus said, have the people sit down. There was plenty of grass in the place where they sat down. About 5,000 men were there. So one of the things they're doing here is telling us maybe for sure what time of year it is. We can go back also. Let's go back here. There's something that stands out back here that just sounds odd that we want to make sure not to miss. And they're going there, and Jesus performed, and he's healing the sick, and Jesus went up on a mountainside, and he sat down, and the Jewish Passover festival was there. What? Why do you put that in? Why do you drop that? It's because there were so many people coming. It tells us what time of year it is. It tells us how many people are going to be there and why they're going to be there and what we're going to have to do when they're there. But it also tells us here there's plenty of grass, so we can line up Passover, we can line up plenty of grass, and we can see what is an area big enough to hold 10 to 15,000 people. And it probably gives us a good location of where they had this feeding of the 5,000. And then Jesus took the loaves and he gave thanks, and he distributed to those who were seated as much as they wanted. Before he said we're going to need half a year's wages for everybody to have a bite. But he gave them as much as they wanted, and he did the same with the fish. Now, we do events here at Catalyst. We do pizza with the pastor. We'll do, sometimes we'll do like a picnic or something like that. That makes it a little bit easier, but we'll do different like a playbook or 101 or 201 or whatever it might be, and we're trying to figure out how many people are going to come. Sort of like our baptism pool party tonight. Make sure you guys show up for that. It'll be a great time. We got a couple baptisms going on. But we were talking this week, and we were like, how many people do you think are going to be there? Because we want to have enough food, but you don't want to have like so much food that like, what are we going to do with all this food when everybody leaves? And you're trying to figure out and trying to get this good balance and trying to figure out how do I be a good host without messing things up too much or spending too much money that I don't need to spend. Jesus doesn't care about that. Jesus is a great host. He makes sure that they have enough to eat, along with the barley loaves and also the fish. And when they had gathered enough to eat, he says to his disciples, gather the pieces that are left over. Nothing should be wasted. That sounds great. Here we go. So they gathered them and filled 12 baskets with pieces of 5 barley loaves left over by those who had been eaten. So here's another number that pops out in the Eastern mind, in the Jewish mind. Oh, there were 12? There just happened to be 12 baskets left over? Sort of like the 12 tribes of Israel, sort of like the 12 apostles, like all of a sudden, oh, he's trying to make sure that we get the connection that Jesus is putting on his best Moses imitation here, his best Elisha imitation here. He is giving us something that we need to have go forward. So Jesus is training them intellectually, but he's also letting them get their hands dirty in ministry so they know what it's like. Now also, we started off with how many loaves of barley? 5. How many did we end up with? 5. Multiplied the whole thing and didn't waste a bit of bread. Jesus used everyday opportunities to put people in ministry. Jesus used everyday opportunities to make disciples, to give people a place to play. He arranged this near Passover at a place where they didn't have enough food, they wouldn't have, and there were going to be a ton of people, and he was like, hey, Philip, how do you think we're going to feed these people? And he sets it up to test them. I want you to learn some problem-solving skills here. And Andrew comes up, and Andrew's like, look what I found. I just happened to find 5 and 2. Oh, and they just happen to have 12 baskets left over. They're picking up on all of this stuff and just taking it with them and filling up on the word that Jesus is giving them. But Jesus used everyday opportunities. Are you using everyday opportunities? Relationships you already have, people at work, people on your team, people at school, people wherever it might be. Are you looking and using everyday opportunities to have a chance to minister, to get your hands dirty, to grow your faith and mature in your faith? Because that's what Jesus did, and that's what he wants us to do. The brother of Jesus, James, says this in chapter 2. He says, suppose a brother or sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, go in peace, keep warm and well fed, but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? In the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead. Oh, you sit and you think about things a lot? Oh, nice job. Oh, you read your scriptures a lot, but it never makes it into your daily life. It never gives you an opportunity to serve. It never tells you, here's what you need to be doing now. Oh, isn't that cute? You don't have real faith. Faith without action is dead. But I show up every Sunday, and I even sing. I come in early, and I make sure I'm here for all the worship songs. And never makes it into your daily life. Ministry is done with actions, period. Ministry is done with actions, serving others in everyday events, everyday opportunities, just like Jesus did with his disciples. We try to do here at Catalyst the same thing, and it's not just on Sunday morning, but it is also on Sunday morning. You need to find a way to minister. At Catalyst, you will be given opportunities to minister, to find and to play. But here's the thing. You've got to want to play. You've got to want to grow your faith. You've got to want to get into ministry. You've got to want to figure out how to get better all the time rather than just show up. Because how long does a coach want to have you on the team if you just show up and you never want to get better and you never want to play? I don't know. You must want to grow your faith and to minister. Here at Catalyst, we see that this is one of the steps to growing our faith, one of the steps in our discipleship system. Say these with me. Share, connect, minister. Let's do that again because there are like 3 of you. I want all of you to get this. Let's do it again. Share, connect. Minister, that's what we're doing here. If you're not doing one of these things, if you do not want to do one of these things, you might need to find another church. And I'm not trying to kick people out, and I'm not trying to be evil and hateful or anything else. Not at this point right now. Maybe later. Right now I'm not trying to be. But here we make disciples. That's what we do. And if you do not want to be a disciple, if you do not want to grow your faith, you're probably going to end up real uncomfortable here. Because we will keep championing the same message over and over again. And the same way, you've got to share your faith. You've got to share your life. You've got to share your table and your experiences. You've got to connect. You've got to invest in people and sometimes financially, sometimes with your time, whatever it might be. But you've got to share, connect, minister, and disciple. So what does this look like? Let me give you some action steps for this week for you. First of all, it is your job to become a minister. When we were over in Israel, one of the things that Aaron pointed out to us, he said, it's not the rabbi's job to make the disciples rabbis. It's their job to want to be rabbis. It's his job to live it out in front of them. It's their job to make sure that they're getting all of his teaching, to do the things that he's doing, when he's doing them, how he's doing them, all of the above. Here's the thing. We will give you opportunities to minister. You have to want them. You have to decide, this is what I need to do. The second thing you need to do is start ministering regularly. You need to have something set in places like, here's what I do. I always serve this food kitchen. Not like I serve this food kitchen every summer twice. No. Like, here's what I do every month. Put me on this schedule. I'm doing this. And then there will be these looking for opportunities each day. There will be these people that show up and God just dumps them in your lap because he knows you're ready. He knows that you are ready to care and to love and to minister to these people, and you'll be like, you'll never believe what happened at work or at lunch or on the way into work, and you'll have these great stories to tell. Every once in a while, Jesus will drop them in there. But regularly, that's how we keep things moving forward. And we have got to get this going. You have got to decide, I want to minister. I want to grow my faith by ministering. You guys got your phones, which I'm sure all of you already have out anyways. I want to give you some opportunities to show you how you can minister here at Catalyst. If you're like, I'm not very good at this, I don't know how to figure this out. First of all, we need people serving in the kids ministry. Over and over, we need people serving in the kids ministry. You can find a place to connect on our hub. If you go to catalystchurch.info, catalystchurch.info. I've got it saved on my phone. We have all of our upcoming events. We have a place to connect. It says connect. And when you go there, you can put in your information and say, I'd like to help in the children's ministry. I'd like to serve in the worship ministry, on the setup team. I'd like to host a connection group. I'd like to be in a connection group. I'd like to, whatever it is, and it'll go to Kathy, and we will get it all taken care of. We'll get you connected with who you need to get connected with. Right now, we need people in our kids ministry. And I'm going to get up on my soapbox, and Holly will find out about it, and we'll fight about it later. But it's fine. Holly is paid to be down in our children's ministry. We pay her part-time to be down in our children's ministry. She comes to service. Now we have 2 of them a week. 52 times a year. We have 2 of them a week. She comes about 5 times a year because we don't have enough children's workers. Because someone, got sick, so she filled in first service, and she always teaches second service, or whatever happened, we just don't have enough. And you're thinking, well, I couldn't help out there. Yeah, you can. Guys, step up. We need guys in the children's ministry. We have young men in there, we have kids in there who don't have dads running around, who need male role models stepping up in there. And you can be in the nursery, you can pre-K, they put those 2 together right now, K through 5, whatever it is. We need people to step up and say, I'm going to do this. Sign me up. And if we get enough people, it's once a month that you serve. We don't have enough people right now, so those people who are helping in there are serving more than once a month. Check it out. Evan right now is doing a training every Saturday this month for people who want to say, I want to help out on the computer, or I want to do the camera, or the soundboard, or the lights, or I want to join the band, or whatever. Every single Saturday, he is training people this month. Out of the Garden Project, you can go on here and you can see the events. Out of the Garden Project, we will go over there and we have a date set, and we need to know how many people are coming. There's the sign-up genius. You can sign up on there. We want to help get the building ready for us to get in there. There are some cables that need to come down. There are some other things that just need to be cleaned up. There's some walls that need to be painted. We also have a sign up for working at Northwest Football Concession Stand. We're going to go in. We're going to work the concession stand. It is a great time. Now, we can only have so many people there, so we have a sign up for that again, but it is a great time to go over there and you're face to face with everybody who wants to come up and say hi. It is a great time. If you don't know how to start doing ministry, here are ways. You don't have that excuse anymore. Do you want to grow your faith? Have you been sharing with people? Have you been connecting with people? Have you been ministering to people or with people? If you haven't, right there's where you stop. Right there's where you need to pick it up. That's the only way you will mature your faith. That's the only way you will grow in your faith. And I want to make sure you're growing in your faith. Jesus gave people opportunities to do it all the time. He made up ways. Oh, we don't have enough bread? Oh, I didn't know that. Well, how are we going to take care of this then? Okay. And we're trying to do the same thing, give you places to play so that you can plug in, you can minister in the way that God gave you the ability to. Step up, make a difference, impact your community, your house, your own faith by ministering to people.